Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU Audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Education, SOE, Master's Degree Programs, Master of Arts, Distance Education, MADE, Second Year. MDE 415 Research for Distance Education. Block-1 Introduction to Research in Distance Education. Unit 3 Research in Distance Education. 3.0 Introduction. Distance education is an innovative and steadily growing system of education in the world, both at the school and higher education levels. Various types of distance education institutes have emerged world over. These are single-mode distance education, universities, open universities, to conventional universities offering same or similar courses through conventional and distance education mode, dual-mode universities, and programs offered on the internet, virtual universities. With the innovation of the virtual universities and death of distance, there is a quantitative as well as qualitative shift in the higher education. Research in distance education is a distinct area of academic interest and is emerging since 1960s. With the beginning of the British Open University in 1969, a more serious and systematic attempt to study the components of distance education started, which helped to improve the distance teaching learning process. Later, a few other universities. Fernuniversität in Germany, Center for Research in Distance and Adult Learning. CRIDAL, Hong Kong, Staff Training and Research Institute of Distance Education. STRIDE, Indira Gandhi National Open University, IGNOU, New Delhi, etc., opened specialized research departments that can contribute to research in open and distance education. The focus of research in the differed from country to country. In this unit, an attempt has been made to introduce you to different areas of research on distance education in India and abroad. Under each area, a synoptic view has been projected on the basis of findings of the studies. 3.1 Objectives. On the completion of this unit, you should be able to prepare a review of research in distance education. Analyze the Indian and international trends of distance education research in a few selected areas of research. List the findings of studies conducted in different areas of distance education. Identify the gaps and overlaps of research conducted. Appreciate the concerns for ethics of distance education research. And work out further research priorities in distance education in your own country. 3.2 Reviewing the review. Number of authors reviewed the researches in distance education. During 90s, more than 9 authors reviewed the researches: Sherman and Neja 1990, Scriven 1991, Panda 1992, Rekidal 1993, Jagad 1994, Calvert 1995, Mishra 1997, Kobal and Bunker 1997, and Holmberg 2000 from various angles. Scriven categorized the articles into 9 headings, whereas Panda reviewed the studies in India under 9 themes. Mishra did the analysis of periodical literature, Indian Journal of Open Learning, and came out with 7 major and 34 subgroups of research topics. Kobal and Bunker did the analysis for the American Journal of Distance Education, 1987 to 1995, under 7 major categories. Jagad identified research priorities for Australia and came out with 22 major groupings. Holmberg classified the studies into 2 major headings: endogenous and exogenous. You can read these reviews by accessing these articles from the internet or from the journals where the article is published. From the year 2000 till 2010, few other authors reviewed the researches in distance education. Reviewers categorized researches into various categories, Table 1, and emphasized on one or more areas of distance education. Table 1. Comparative categorization of research in open and distance education. Look at the screen. These reviews are important for the future researchers, students, practitioners, and policy makers. The researchers can locate a problem for future investigation and can also formulate the theoretical framework for their own study. The practitioners can make use of the findings for problem solving, quality assurance, or redevelopment. Finally, the policy makers who are in the field of distance education can plan and structure the decisions based on the reviews. Also, they provide suggestions for planning, development, production and distribution, implementation of various distance learning activities. Analyzing the reviews from 2000 to 2010, you will notice that the review by Burge and Mrozovsky 2001 adopted Sherry's 1996 10 categories of research in distance education. Rock and Szabo 2002 did a content analysis of the articles published in the Canadian Journal of Distance Education from the year 1986 to 2001. After analysis, he categorized the studies in 9 categories. Parhar in 2003 reviewed articles published during 1998 to 2001 in the 4 leading journals in the world on distance education. The articles were analyzed for the content. A set of 5 categories were identified in this review, which is presented in the table 1. Lee ed.al also did the content analysis of the research articles. He developed a system of 6 broad categories for grouping distance education literature. He further identified the subcategories under each 6 category. An important study was undertaken in the year 2009 by Zawacki Richter, where the author validated classification of research areas in distance education through a Delphi study method. The author classified the studies under 3 levels: macro, meso and micro level. Further 5, 7 and 3 areas respectively were derived to organize the studies in distance education. In another study by the same author, S. Zawacki Richter et al. In 2009, reviewed distance education literature to describe the status and identify the gaps and priorities area in distance education. Authors reviewed 5 distance education journals between 2000 and 2008. The review concluded that distance education research is strongly dominated by issues related to instructional design and individual learning process. 3.2.1 Trend status and future developments. Most of the reviewers focused either on the research trends, status, research gaps, or the future developments of distance education research. Taylor, 1989, Jagard, 1994, and Moore, 1995, listed some gap areas where research is needed. These are policy and administration, instruction and course design, learners and learning process of distance learners, efficiency and effect, and so on. Some scholars reviewed research on open and distance education in a particular country or a group of countries. For example, Walker, 1997, reported research in open and distance learning within Australia, New Zealand and the Pacific. Baumeister, 1998, reviewed research in European countries, and Rockwell, 1999, identified future research needs for distance education in the state of Nebraska, USA. Moeller, Horst and Schoenherr and Kurt, 2000, reviewed research during the last 40 years. They concluded that research in distance education is mainly concerned with the future social professional needs, student support systems, media and virtual open and distance learning. A few highlights from the trend analysis by the previous reviewers are worth mentioning here. Simultaneous diversification and convergence of techniques, changing relationships with students, changing relationship among the institutions and educational adaptation. Miller, 1993, researchers have moved beyond experimental comparative studies and have introduced new methodologies such as discourse analysis. Sabah, 2000. Experimental research do not display rigor in their design and technology related research studies were popular. Jagard, 2001. Attempts have been made to develop far-reaching theories of distance education. Holmberg, 2000, 3.2.2 Methodological issues. Some other scholars have reviewed the research in distance education from the angle of methodological issues and approaches. These reviews offer meaningful guideline for assessing validity of research findings on designing research projects, develop field-based techniques for data collection, and interpret data. The implications of such reviews are particularly helpful for fellow researchers in distance education. Generally speaking, the studies use either qualitative or quantitative techniques. In India, Panda, 1992, analyzed the research literature and found that most of the studies are descriptive, surveys or experimental studies with poor methodological footing. Mishra, 1997, critically analyzed 361 papers published in 4 leading international journals of the. He found that most studies followed descriptive method followed by survey. Later in another review, Mishra, 2002, categorized techniques into 8 areas. Naidu, 2004, suggested 5: case studies, correlational studies, experimental, phenomenological studies and research synthesis, research methods for pursuing research in distance education. International literature, Coldway 1990, Jagat 2001, Minus 1985, Marland 1989, Sabah, and Twichele 1988, reveals that various qualitative research methods based on descriptive analysis like ethnography, case study and grounded theory and methodology of critical reflection put forward by Evans in Nation, 1989, are considered to be more promising to understand the distance education phenomenon. Morgan, 1984, reviewed the literature that used only qualitative research design. Sabah, 2000, reported that researchers have moved beyond experimental comparative studies and introduced new methods such as discourse analysis and in-depth interview of learners. Coldway, 1988, and Sun and Stevens, 1993, advised that researchers had often made errors and should have a clear understanding of issues like sampling, statistical significance, validity and reliability, etc. Review by Berge and Mrozovsky, 2001, reports that out of 890 research articles, 3/4 of the articles and dissertations, 74.83%, involved descriptive research while 6% used an experimental approach to research problems. Lee ed. Al., 2004, found that researchers used case study, experimental methods to conduct researches. Zawachi Richter, 2009, in the analysis regarding the research method shows that there is a trend towards qualitative research methods. On journal-wise analysis, the study showed that American Journal of Distance Education prefers to publish qualitative studies in Journal of Distance Education published papers which applied mixed method design. Journal of Distance Education published qualitative studies. 3.3 Research areas. There is a rapid development in research in distance education and large number of research articles being published all over the world. There are several sources, namely published and unpublished research reports and doctoral dissertations, research articles in printed refereed journals and online journals, ICDL listings, internet etc. The review in this unit is based on research articles published in printed journals, books and various other sources. Majority of the research articles published in the journals were analyzed for its content. In the present unit we have tried to summarize the findings of the researchers. Effort is made to include the studies from all the different areas of distance education. Though it is not possible to include all the studies, but the important ones are highlighted. Based on the national and international reviews, a set of categories were developed and accordingly the findings of the research studies were assigned to each category. These categories are growth of distance education, policies, patterns and organization, programs and courses, distance learners, instructional processes, program development and evaluation, output and impact of distance education, economics of distance education, 3.3.1 Growth of distance education. Although distance education institutions are fast coming up in many countries all over the world, they do not fit into any one particular model. The reasons for the diversity in their structure, growth and functions are to be located in their differing goals as well as the socio-academic environments, the policies, patterns and organization of distance teaching institutions reflect the specific concerns of each institution in meeting its educational goals. Research in this area is important in understanding, assessing and evaluating the needs of a particular institution, country with a view to shaping its programs and implementing them. Thus, understanding of research conducted abroad would be very useful for us. In India, the first study under this category was conducted by Dutt, 1976. The study was conducted on the trend of enrollment in correspondence courses from 1971 to 1976. Taking into consideration the nature of courses, annual compound rate of enrollment and levels of courses. There have been instances of studies on organizational aspects of Correspondence courses by Anand, 1979, Balasubramaniam, 1986, Biswal, 1979, Dutt. 1984, Khan, 1982, Nagaraju, 1982, Pagazanthi, 1985, Rao, 1980, Sahu, 1985a. And UGC, 1986. Almost all the studies highlight the gradual growth of the in the country as a mere extension of the system of regular courses offered through traditional universities. Therefore, the courses have had limitations in meeting the academic and the socio-economic needs of distance learners. Similarly, there have been several attempts outside India to conduct studies in this area. Beardsley, 1975, Kinsey, 1975, Kuznetsov, 1975, Henry, 1975, Wedemeyer, 1975, Chamberlain, 1977, Gitton, 1977, Nolan, 1977, Perry, 1977, Pogano, 1977. Sims, 1978, Green, 1980, Skyer, 1981, and Rumble and Borden, 1983, Wiley. 2009, Simpson, 2006, are some of them. The common findings from these studies are that the organizational structures for the are generally integrated within a larger system of education, usually a large university complex. Within each educational setup, the systems follow certain overall policy statements on their roles and functions. The systems, however, have unique policy-making models. Bauduin, 2009, proposed a viable model, consortia, for distance education in developing countries. Wiley wrote on a decade of development open learning, and Simpson reviewed the ways in which student success can be predicted in conventional and distance education. Wei, 2010, expressed that distance education and adoption of open learning in Chinese radio and TV universities is not an indication that they will copy wholesale. It will be developed in accordance with specific political, social, cultural environments in Chinese context. 3.3.2 Programs and courses. Out of 40 their institutions, which include directorates of correspondence course in open universities, 14 to 30 institutions offered 37 degree-level courses at undergraduate and postgraduate levels towards the end of the 80s. While courses belonging to arts, commerce and education have been more popular, courses in other fields like science, law and management have been gaining ground in this system. Sahu, 1989. While correspondence institutions are likely to introduce innovative courses, the approving bodies of parent universities look upon innovative proposals with suspicion and discourage experimentation in most instances. UGC, 1986. On the other hand, some of the potential students, dropouts in products of correspondence courses have shown their keenness to join innovative courses of applied and interdisciplinary nature, provided they are introduced through the Sahu, 1985. However, nothing much has happened in this regard. 3.3.3 Distance learners. A large number of studies conducted in India have focused on distance learners. Some of these studies focus on the needs and aspirations of learners, their motivation to continue and complete courses, background of learners, dropout and factors influencing learners' decisions to pursue their studies. Needs, motivation and aspirations of learners. Studies by Anand, 1979, Khan, 1982, Kaul, 1982, Kumar et al., 1986, Pillai, and Mohan, 1983, Singh, 1983. Sahu, 1985, UGC, 1986, and Mishra, 1988. Reveal that improvement of qualifications and desire for continuing with higher education acted as the major motivation for students in India for joining correspondence courses. A comparative study, Biswal, 1979, on academic motivation of distance and conventional students revealed that correspondence students had lower level of academic motivation than that of their regular counterparts. At the university level, learners joined correspondence courses in preference to regular conventional courses because of several personal and socio-economic reasons. The reasons as identified by Kaul, 1982, and Sahu, 1985, are non-availability of time, mental maturity of learners, non-existence of colleges in one's locality and heavy expenses to be met in formal college education. Upreti, 1988, Gautam, 1990, and Pagazanthi, 1991, explored the characteristics and aspirations of the learners who had joined teacher education programs through the distance mode. Upreti, 1988, found that majority of the learners who had joined B.Ed had graduated in humanities and social sciences. Gautam, 1990, reported that there was a positive relationship between learners' characteristics and success in distance learning at B.Ed level. Pagazanthi, 1991, reported that the age of the teacher trainees in distance mode ranged from 25 to 61 years. Singh et al., 2012, compared the levels of male and female students in open education system with that of traditional education system. The study concludes that it is the presence or absence of extrinsic motivation which is predominantly responsible for the difference in the students of the two systems. Internationally, in the area of needs and aspirations of learners for joining different courses, two types of studies have been conducted. One, pertaining to the stage prior to entering the institutions, and the other, at the post-entrance stage. In the pre-entry stage, in the case of one study at the Open University in UK, the target learners were asked about their awareness of the existence of the Open University, Perry. 1977. The study revealed that over a period of 5 years, 1971 to 1976, in the UK, only 64% of the total adult population had come to know about the university. From 1971 to 1976, the percentage of men and women being aware of the Open University increased by two-fold. The studies of the second category, i.e., at the post-entry stage, revealed that students who had already entered the correspondence education stream had done so to improve academic qualifications and to improve occupational efficiency. Childs, 1966. National Extension College, 1967, Fairbanks, 1971, Glatter and Weddell, 1971, McIntosh, 1978. Peters, 1978, Idle et al., 1978. Further, motivation for improvement in social status had prompted many students to join the courses. National Extension College, 1967 and McIntosh, 1978. In one of the studies of the second category, Venuias, 1981, an attempt was made to analyze the motivational factors of students on the basis of age and sex. The study revealed that job-related goals were the best motivating forces for most young men between 18 and 24 years and women between 25 and 44 years. Women above 45 years stated that their joining was motivated by their hobbies, recreation and family concerns. However, it could be observed that factors like 1. Changing personal or family circumstances and 2. Financial problems of unemployed individuals had obstructed many potential students who could not join any educational correspondence program. McIntosh, 1978. Background and characteristics of distance learners. Studies on the socioeconomic and academic background of distance learners in India reveals significant facts regarding the system in the country. Unlike the age cluster of regular college students between 16 to 23 years, the age of the majority of correspondence students is between 16 and 35 years. Anand, 1979, Gomati. 1982, Khan, 1982, Pillai and Mohan, 1983, Sahu, 1985, and UGC, 1986. While most of the lower age group, 16 to 25 years, candidates opted for undergraduate courses, Khan, 1982, Sahu, 1985, and UGC, 1986, most candidates of the upper age group, 20 to 60 years, enrolled in postgraduate courses, Sahu, 1985. In the case of one of the diploma programs of IGNOU, a large group of students belonged to 30 to 40 years age group, Mishra, 1988. The majority of learner population were men, Biswal, 1979, Gomti, 1982, Pillai and Mohan, 1983, Sahu, 1985, UGC, 1986 and Sahu, 1989. Most of them were from upper castes, Anand, 1979, Pillai and Mohan, 1983. And Sahu, 1985, they were employed and belonged to different cadres of vocations like teaching, clerical jobs, administration, sales service, farming, mechanics and labor, although they mainly came from teaching and clerical jobs. Gomati, 1982, Pillai and Mohan, 1983. Sahu, 1985 and UGC, 1986. Almost all the students on management courses of IGNOU are employed and a large number of them have less than 10 years service experience. However, students with more than 25 years experience were also admitted to the course. Mishra, 1988. A sizable number of them, 30%, were first generation learners. Moreover, a large number of learners had 1 to 10 years gap between their last qualifying examination and enrollment in the present courses. Sahu, 1985. With regard to socio-psychological characteristics of the school-level students of correspondence courses, Singh, 1980, 1983, found that the age of students varied from below 20 up to 40 years with major concentration around 18 to 21 years. Deval, 1982. A majority of the school-level distance students had 4 to 10 years time gap between their having left a regular school and joining the course. Singh, 1980, 1983. A majority of these students were married, hailed from upper castes, with moderate economic position in. Around one-third of them were employed. Singh, 1980, 1983, and Deval, 1982. Studies of learner characteristics concern themselves with several variables like age, sex, marital status, regional background, employment, occupation, social class and academic qualification. Further, in some of the cases analysis of learners' characteristics were done, taking into consideration the courses within the correspondence education system and parallel systems outside. Kemba et al., 1992, studied the socio-demographic characteristics of participants in 9 distance education courses. Chan and Holford, 1993, conducted telephone survey of potential participants, their motives, deterrents to participation and plans for future. With regard to the age of the students, it was found that in the UK a very high percentage of correspondence students belonged to around 30 years of age. Glatter and Weddell, 1971, McIntosh, 1978. In the USA and West Germany around 55 to 56% correspondence students were of 35 years of age. Johnston and Rivera, 1965, Peters, 1965. In Costa Rica very high percentage of the students of distance university were below 25 years of age. Rumble and Borden, 1983. In comparison with other adult education course students, correspondence course students were found to be quite younger. Johnston and Rivera, 1965. With regard to sex ratios, the studies conducted in the USA and the UK revealed that most of the students, i.e., around 70%, were men. Johnston and Rivera, 1965, Glatter and Weddell, 1971. In the case of the Open University in the UK, the situation in 1971, i.e., 70% men and 30% women, changed to 56% men and 44% women by the year 1978, McIntosh, 1978. In Canada, however, the largest percentage of students was women, especially from 25 to 34 years of age. YearMaster, 1981. In Costa Rica, the ratio of men to women students was 54:46, UNED, 1979. Regarding marital status of correspondence students, it was found that most of them were married and had children. Middleton, 1965, YearMaster. 1981, Glatter and Weddell, 1971, McIntosh, 1978, Rumble and Borden, 1983. About the domicile of students, the studies like those of Peters, 1965, and Glatter and Weddell, 1971. Revealed that in comparison with rural learners, larger numbers of urban learners were attracted towards the correspondence system. The academic backgrounds of correspondence learners at the university level varied greatly. The Open University of the UK, which does not insist on formal schooling experiences, had attracted one-third of its first batch of students during 1971 from those who had no formal education, while the Rest had formal schooling, McIntosh, 1974. In another study, Perry, 1977, it was found that during 1971 only 33% of the students of the Open University fulfilled the minimum qualification requirements for entry into other British universities. However, by the year 1975 the percentage of this category of students had increased to 46.4. In the distance University, Costa Rica, an increasing trend was marked in the case of non-degree holders. Rumble and Borden, 1983. In a study at the University of British Columbia, Canada showed that the students taking undergraduate distance courses were on average several years older than they. Students taking the same classes on campus, Bates 2000. Studies on dropouts. Discontinuation of studies has been a serious concern for the DE system everywhere. The rate of dropout in there at the Central Institute of English and Foreign Languages, Hyderabad has been studied by Balasubramaniam, 1976, as 57 to 66% and by Kaul, 1982, as 63%. At the BA courses of Delhi, Punjab, Bombay, Madurai, Sri Venkateshwara, and Meerut universities, the dropout rate ranged between 8% and 25%. Yadav and Sharma, 1987. Sahu, 1985, found that during the very first semester 50 to 75% of the total dropouts from PG courses discontinued their studies. Kaul, 1982, found that 43% of total dropouts from a course discontinued their studies at the very outset, at zero lesson level. In general, the dropout rate at the institutions was found to be higher than that of conventional institutions. Gupta, 1986. Mostly, the dropouts belong to upper age groups with larger gap of time between their last qualifying examinations and admissions to the courses. Poorer academic and family background, rural areas and employed groups. Sahu, 1985. In the case of dropouts, men's ratio was higher than that of women. Kaul, 1982. Sahu, 1985. Major problems coming in the way of dropouts were responsibility at home and place of work, lack of availability of time to pursue studies, inability to attend contact programs, lack of proper teacher-student interactions, non-availability of reference materials, inadequate submission of assignment responses and difficulties faced in responding to the study materials. Kaul, 1982, and Sahu, 1985, Fauzdar et al. 2006. Non-payment of semester fees was also a reason for discontinuing the studies. Balasubramaniam, 1976. While Kaul, 1982, found that at the Central Institute of English and Foreign Languages, Hyderabad, 20% of dropouts aspire to continue with their studies again. Sahu, 1985, found that 69% of the dropouts of the Himachal Pradesh University were interested to rejoin the correspondence courses provided certain improvements were brought about in the system. The dropouts felt the need for improvement in managerial, instructional and evaluative systems of the Kaul, 1982, Sahu, 1985. The studies conducted on the dropouts in the systems outside India are many. Brad, 1956, James and Wedemeyer, 1959, Sheath, 1965, Middleton, 1965, Sloan, 1966, Pulley, 1971, Glatter and Weddell, 1971, and Idle, 1978, identified the major reasons for dropping out as 1. Job interference with study, 2. Lack of time, 3. Interference because of family, home responsibilities, 4. Changes in career plans, 5. Problems with the modes of studies and completion of lessons, 6. Late submission of assignments, 7. Difficulties in the nature of course itself, 8. Lack of contact with the instructors, 9. Lack of personal interest, and 10. Other personal problems. Several factors influencing the completion of courses have also been highlighted. The factors like expectations, initial perception of the course, promptness, and regularity in studying and completing the lessons, motivation of students, their maturity, clear-cut paths for vocational growth and personal achievement were positively related with course completion. Hughes, 1955, Kuiper, 1967, Donhauer, 1967 and McGill and others 1997, whereas the distance between the student's place of residence and the institutions and heavy workload were found to be negatively related with course completion. Donhauer, 1968 and McIntosh, 1974. It was also found that the percentage of women completing the courses was found to be higher than that of men. Donhauer, 1968 and McIntosh, 1974. Fenner, 1998, found that attrition is higher at the beginning of a distance course than towards the end. Research into dropout in distance education, Tate and Mills 2002. Brindley, Walty and Zawacki Richter 2004, found that attrition can be reduced by good course design and good personal support through tutors. Pierakis et al. 2004, found that the overall anticipated percentage of student dropouts tend to be much higher in undergraduate courses as compared to postgraduate courses. Learning styles of distance learners. An important area of research in education as well as distance education is, how do learners learn and their approaches to learning. Generally, two approaches, surface and deep, have been identified, and these approaches describe the way students tackle particular learning tasks. The approaches are context-specific and directly relate to the quality of learning outcomes. Morgan's 1993 work exclusively deals with this aspect. In the context of distance education, while students with surface approach to their learning are concerned with the intention of completing the learning task requirements, students with deep approach to learning are more concerned with the intention to understand the deeper meaning embedded in the learning tasks and their relationships with other tasks. There are few studies on this issue. These studies deal with a variety of learning styles, online learning environment and approaches adopted by distance learners. Dependent learning, Smith 2000, single study strategy, Morgan ed. Al.1998, constructivist approach, Jung 2000, orientation, Lyell and McNamara 2000, surface approach. Landbeck and Mugler 2000, self-directed learning, T-Say, Morgan and Quick 2000. Are some of the approaches used by the researchers to study the learning styles. Studies have been carried out on distance learners enrolled in vocational education, Smith 2000. Grace and Smith 2001, nursing, Carnwell 2000, science, Lyell and McNamara 2000. etc. From Open University of Taiwan, Open University of Hong Kong, South Pacific University, Australian and British universities etc. The findings of these set of studies reveal divergence in terms of learning styles of the learners. Learners adopted surface approach to learning, Landbeck and Mugler 2000, preferred dependent learning rather than self-directed learning. Learners indicated their preference for learning through observation rather than verbal presentations, Smith, 2000. Studies by Lee and Kemba, 2000, and T-Say, Morgan and Quick, 2000. Indicated importance of personal autonomy and self-directed learning among the learners. A single study strategy on diverse groups of distance learners, Morgan ed. Al.1998. Received a mixed response. Less experienced learners embraced the study strategy with considerable enthusiasm. More experienced learners rejected it if it conflicted with their existing study strategies. In another interesting study, Carnwell, 2000, developed relationship between approaches to study, learning styles and strategies. 3. Approaches, systematic weighting, speedy focusing and global dipping were identified in this study. Systematic weighers tend to be serialist learners, speedy focusers take a strategic view of materials and global dippers tend to study in a disorganized fashion. Taplin ed. Al., 2001, compared the help-seeking strategies used by high achievers and low achievers of Open University of Hong Kong. It was found that there were similarities between the two groups, but there was a tendency of seeking help by high achievers for personal difficulties. There are gender differences in the factors influencing achievement of distance education students, Taplin and Jaeger 2001. Learning styles of distance learners is an important area of investigation. The above studies are, however, not conclusive. Hence, there is need to conduct further research on how and the nature of adult learning. Activity 1. Search internet to find out more research studies in the area of distance learners. 3.3.4 Instructional Processes. It is generally agreed that distance education adopts multimedia in an imaginative way in its instructional system and thus tries to compensate for the absence of a live classroom teacher. Print and electronic media, when combined judiciously, can play the role of a live teacher to a great extent. However, a thorough understanding of the potential of different media and learner characteristics is necessary to evolve the right kind of instructional system. Studies, Schramm 1974, Clark 1983, Russell 1999 etc. compared the effectiveness of broadcast lecture versus face-to-face lecture. Findings show that when poorly designed, there are no significant differences in learning between different media or technologies. It is important to look into the conditions that lead to such findings. Bates, 2005, found that technologies vary in terms of their access for distance learners, their costs, kinds of learning, type of interaction, speed, maintenance etc. This section gives you a brief account of research studies conducted in this field. Print-based material. It has been noticed that all the other institutions at the university as well as the school level depend mainly on print-based instructional material. They may be in modular forms, in self-instructional programmed learning packages, in semi-programmed form or in some other form as prescribed by respective institutions. Biswal, 1979, Singh, 1980, Khan, 1982, Singh 1983, Sahu, 1985. UGC, 1986. On the part of students, it was found that a large majority of them at the university level, 81 to 85%, depend on printed lessons for completing their studies. Anand, 1979, Khan, 1982, Sahu, 1985. All the studies reported the usefulness of printed study materials as perceived by the students in one or the other respect. Anand, 1979, Biswal, 1979, Singh, 1980, Khan, 1982, Pillai and Mohan, 1982, Sahu, 1985, Kumar et al. 1986. In most of the cases, study materials were not available in respective their institutions and did not follow a systematic format, while most of the students, dropouts in products of their expressed moderate views about the different aspects of lessons like style of presentation, content, clarity, suggested references and language. Sahu, 1985 and UGC, 1986, majority of them pointed out their difficulties in studying the lessons. Singh, 1980 and 1989, Deval, 1982, Kaul, 1982, Khan, 1982, Sahu, 1985, UGC 1986. A large number of students, 41% of 6 universities, found the materials too heavily packed with information, causing difficulties in studying all the lessons. Moreover, irregular dispatch of lessons created problems for students. Singh, 1980, Nagaraju, 1982, Kaul, 1982, Singh, 1983, Sahu, 1985, and UGC, 1986. It was suggested by students and teachers that study materials be made self-instructional, reviewed appropriately, edited and proofread properly, dispatched in time along with references materials. Khan, 1982, Sahu, 1985, Kumar et al., 1986. Further, it was found that the students preferred lessons written in Indian languages and most teachers emphasized on the need for acquiring necessary experience through formal training, orientations and workshops for developing effective materials. Khan, 1982, Sahu, 1985, and Kaul, 1986. Mishra and Garber, 1999, conducted an exploratory study into the use of activities in self-instructional materials by distance learner. Study indicates that students make use of activities which are given in self-learning material. They also use white space given in the side margin. Majority of respondents preferred descriptive type of SAQs. A few studies have been conducted to determine the efficiency of certain methods of instruction over others. Shimich, 1965, conducted a study of the comparative Effectiveness of self-instructional methods of learning and the correspondence scores. Techniques. He found that the correspondence students outscored those on individualized instruction, but the difference in achievement scores was not significant. Willingham's 1971 study aimed at the comparative effectiveness of a combination of different methods with 1. Students meeting the instructors who used lecture-cum-discussion approaches 3 times a week, 2. Students meeting tutors once in a week and taking correspondence study, and 3. Students taking usual correspondence courses. No significant difference could be seen in the achievement of students who followed these different methods of instruction. Green, 1967, studied the effectiveness of correspondence study methods using self-instructional materials, TV and homework assignments. They were found equally effective in comparison with the conventional methods of teaching, as there did not exist any significant difference between the achievement scores of students undergoing studies through different methods. Electronic media. The last few decades have witnessed a significant number of studies on media in technology in distance education and open learning, from radio, audio and audio-vision to teleconferencing, interactive video, computer conferencing and computer-mediated communication. The various journals of distance education and other related literature has been dominated heavily by reporting on the use of sophisticated media in technology in distance education. This is appropriately so because distance education, as an operational system, depends heavily on the technology of delivery. In this section, the studies pertain to the following 3 media: audio and video programs, interactive media, audio, video and computer conferencing, education through World Wide Web, mobile technology, audio and video programs. All India radio stations at Delhi, Jalandhar, Hyderabad and Tamil Nadu used to broadcast educational programs for correspondence courses, but distance education institutions of the regions concerned could not make full use of radio broadcast facilities. Nagaraju, 1982, witnessed usefulness of radio programs in service teacher training program of Kerala State. However, he found that all the trainees did not listen to all the radio programs of the training course. Cassettes have been used to correct pronunciation and delivery in the teaching of languages, UGC. 1986. TV support was not available in the past for any of the programs. Biswal, 1979. Khan, 1982, Sahu, 1985 and Balasubramaniam, 1986. Doordarshan allowed 90-minute telecasts in a week for IGNOU programs. Interactive media. Several researchers examined the use of video, cable TV and the teleconferencing mode in the though video film was found to be more effective. Mandal and Shah, 1992. Majority of distance learners did not use audio and video support. Srinivasacharyulu, Sabha Rao and Rajamouli, 1989a.
The cable TV network, when properly planned and managed, can provide useful support to distance education. Chaudhary and Bihari, 1994. Distance learners were found to be favorably inclined to use the teleconferencing mode. Sahu, 1994. While analyzing the interactivity of IGNOU's one-way video and two-way audio teleconference facility, Mishra, 1999, found that the total duration of interaction calls was little less than 1/10 of the total teleconference time. Learners were satisfied with the use of technology and teleconference facility, which increased the interaction of the learners with their peer as well as the experts. Internationally, several studies reveal the preference for and positive learning gains in the use of audio conferences. Knox, 1997, telecourses, Baina and others, 1997, video conferencing, Burke and others, 1997, and video mail, Hase and Sainger, 1997. The effectiveness of different interactive media showed different results. Audio conferencing was found to be an effective learning tool in providing opportunities to engage in cross-cultural dialogue. Henderson and Putt, 1999. Studies on interactive television, Chen and Willits, 1998, Hilgenberg and Tolone, 2000, Chen and Willits, 1999, Kelsey, 2000, Harman and Dorman 1998 focused on Moore's theory of transactional distance, opportunities for critical thinking in distance education. Computer conferencing was found to enhance collaboration, critical thinking and group development based on interpersonal needs. MacDonald and Gibson 1998, Bullen 1998. In another comparative study, students using CBL performed significantly better than the total group, Halby et al. 2000. Potter and Naidu, 2009, studied the challenges involved in conducting evaluations of interactive radio programs in South Africa with large numbers of schools, teachers, and learners. Education through World Wide Web. World Wide Web is one of the latest delivery approaches in education and distance education in particular. Center for Technology in Learning, U.S. Department of Education. In 2010 conducted a systematic search of the research literature from 1996 through July 2008 in online learning. They identified more than 1,000 empirical studies on the theme. Studies were analyzed as A. Contrast of an online to a face-to-face teaching. B. Measured student learning outcomes. C. Used a rigorous research design. And D. Provided adequate information to calculate an effect. Authors did the meta-analysis and found that, on average, students in online learning conditions performed modestly better than those receiving face-to-face instruction. There are a number of other studies which range from effectiveness to intercultural issues, collaboration, willingness to use the technology, satisfaction, etc. Findings show that students who had access to web technology found web-based instruction as a convenient approach. Doughty and Funk 1998. Pajo and Wallace 2001 found the university teachers did not believe that web technology was more effective than conventional correspondence-based distance learning. The students reported range of challenges in the delivery and development of web-based instruction. These were lack of software, student resistance, lack of technical and faculty support. Some of the other research findings are access to the technology by the respondents, Purdue and Valentine 2000, Voyager 2001, greater time and effort expended on distance education course development and delivery than that of traditional courses, Visser 2000. Induction exercise on how to interact online before students select this mode, Bresgovan and Clulo 2000, online interactions were at lower phases of the interaction. Analysis model, Kanuk and Anderson 1998, oral health professionals ranked the creation of scientifically based, frequently updated online dental education courses that defines their educational goals as highly important, Spolkheko et al. 2000, and teaching an asynchronous online course does not require more effort than teaching a comparable synchronous classroom course, DBS 2000, collaboration in small groups. Murphy and Sifuens 2001, online instruction to be guided and initiated by facilitators. Youngblood et al. 2001, and minimum experience in both print and web realms. Smith 2001. Use of emails to increase students' participation in group discussion. Woods and Keeler 2001, and Foster collaboration, NG 2001, has also been reported in the studies. There are a number of studies on interculture and cross-culture issues related to online education, Goodfellow et al. 2001, Gunawardena et al. 2001, Zigahu, 2001, Williams et al. 2001. The findings of these studies examine the cultural differences in perception, environment, nature of courses in online learning. Tu and Corey, 2001, analyzed the online researches and suggested future studies in online learning community. Murphy, Jung and Paris, 2003, studied the online learning in Asia. They pointed out that Asian Countries are supporting other countries in the region and offering cross-border studies with quality. Heard, 2006, studied the students who were enrolled in foreign language course in Open University, UK and Shantu Radio and Television University of China. Alharati and Aisha, 2010, studied the relationship between learner self-regulation and cultural orientation within distance education environment. Enoch, 2006, studied that structural factors such as age, gender and ethnicity also play a significant role in the continuous existence of the usage gap of online courses. Maxine Zhao, Douglas. McDougall, 2008, found that the participants had a positive attitude towards online courses. The study also identified 6 cultural factors that affected their online learning. Peter and Nichols, 2010, in their paper considers e-learning project management from the perspective of navigating tension between faculty and instructional design e-learning expertise in the context of as the bridging of 2 distinctive cultures. Bolliger and Oksana, 2009, developed an online faculty satisfaction survey, OFSS, and administered to all instructors who had taught an online course in fall 2007 or spring 2008 at a small research university in the USA. 102 individuals completed the web-based questionnaire. Results confirm that 3 factors affect satisfaction of faculty in the online environment. These are student-related, instructor-related, and institution-related factors. Gunawardena et al., 2010, designed online courses using a problem-centered and case-based approach to learning and utilized technologies including learning management systems such as Blackboard and SharePoint, as well as instructional design tools such as Breeze, Captivate, and PowerPoint. Online self-efficacy emerged as the strongest predictor of learner satisfaction. Mobile technology. Mobile learning is an upcoming mode of delivery of instruction not only in distance education institutions but also in formal system. The most popular mobile devices are the mobile phones, PDAs, laptops, and iPads. Many initiatives and research studies have been conducted to investigate the use of mobile technology in learning. M-learning has been defined as e-learning using mobile devices and wireless transmission, Hoppe et al., 2003, Chung et al., 2003. While e-learning is mostly dependent upon desktop personal computing, PC, technology, learning is dependent upon mobile devices, ORR, 2010. Peter, 2007, describes mobile learning as a useful component of the flexible learning model and stated that it was a subset of e-learning, a step toward making the educational process just in time, just enough and just for me. Brown, 2005, summarized several definitions and terms and identified mobile learning as an extension of e-learning. Whereas P. and Maldonado, 2006, stated that mobile learning incorporates transformative innovations for learning futures. A review of the literature on M-learning reveals several initiatives, such as the implementation of M-portals, Mitchell, 2003, Classrooms of the Future, Dawabi et al., 2003, and Practical Scientific Experimentation and Teaching, Milrad et al., 2004. There are papers published on how to design learning materials for delivery on mobile technology, Ally, 2007, Patton, Sanchez and Tangane, 2006, Sharples, Taylor and Vavula, 2007. M-learning provides a tool for brainstorming, quizzing, and voting through integration with online management systems in classrooms, Go and Kinshuk, 2006, while in the laboratory it bridges individual and collaborative learning. Clark et al., 2008. Al-Fahad, 2009, Wang, 2009, Garrett and Jackson, 2006, Kavas and Uzumboilu, 2009. Uzumboilu et al., 2009, Maner, 2007, Mag, 2007, reported that students have a strong, positive reaction to integrating learning into the classroom. Students reported competence and ease in using the devices and performing the learning tasks. Genter et al. 2008, Hasu et al. 2008. Balasubramanian, 2010, studied the role of mobile phones in the non-formal and informal context among rural women from resource-poor communities. Personal contact programs. All the D institutions had the provision for personal contact programs, Dutt, 1976. And Biswal, 1979. Compulsion, optional attendance, selection of venue for personal contact programs, PCPs, employment positions of learners, their financial difficulties. Lack of proper facilities for boarding and lodging and lack of prior information to students are some of the factors which influence students' attendance at PCPs. Sahu, 1985, as the PCPs are mostly organized in cities. Sahu, 1985 and Balasubramaniam, 1986. Regarding attendance in PCPs, Anand 1979 revealed that in Punjab University only 18% of pre-university students turned up for PCPs and only 40% of the first day strength was noticed on the last, 10th day of PCP. Sahu, 1985, found that where attendance was compulsory, 70 to 80% learners turned up for PCPs, and where it was optional, around 33% learners attended the PCPs of PG courses. Srinivasacharulu and Ramaya, 1992, found that the degree holders did not attend the contact classes at Brow. At school-level D programs, Singh, 1983, found only 5% of the learners attended PCPs regularly and another 5 attended partially. However, Deval, 1982, found that in 3D institutions at the school level, 50% learners attended PCPs. This certainly must have been a special case. No uniform policy was followed in directing teachers to select topics for teaching during PCPs. Sahu, 1985. The planning and organization of PCPs seemed to be inadequate. Nagraju, 1982. The topics available in study materials were repeated in most of the cases. Balasubramaniam, 1986. The usual methods used for teaching in the PCPs were lectures together with question-answer sessions. Sahu, 1985. Even though the real purpose of PCPs was not achieved to a large extent, most of the learners in higher education expressed positive opinion about the usefulness of PCPs. Anand, 1979, Biswal, 1979, Mathur, 1979, Khan, 1982, Kumar et al. 1986, Pillai and Mohan, 1983, Sahu, 1985, and Balasubramaniam, 1986 and Rathore, 1991. The utility of PCPs was experienced by learners in terms of clarification of doubts, getting inspiration for further studies, better preparation for examination and solving academic problems. Mathur, 1979. Sahu, 1985, Balasubramaniam, 1986 and UGC, 1986. Besides, the learners appreciated the teacher-student informal interaction. Sahu, 1985. However, with regard to the school-level D system, most of the learners did not find PCPs purposeful. Most of the participants of PCPs for PG courses welcomed compulsory attendance. Bhusan and Sharma, 1976, and Sahu, 1985, while the UG students expressed a negative opinion. Anand, 1979 and Mathur, 1979. Most of the respondents among teachers, learners and dropouts favored increased frequencies of PCPs. Sahu, 1985, and also increased duration of each PCP. Bhushan and Sharma, 1976, Anand, 1979, and Sahu, 1985. Usha Devi, 1994, revealed that learners showed positive affirmation for the necessity of contact classes. The common recommendation in the above studies regarding PCPs was that proper care must be taken for selection of venues, sending prompt information to participants, division of learners into appropriate groups, use of appropriate methods and media for encouraging group interaction, appropriate orientation for teachers for selecting topics, provision of library facilities, co-curricular activities and facilities for boarding and lodging of participants. 3.3.5 Program Development and Evaluation. Under this section we would focus on the program evaluation research. Research on program evaluation and quality assurance of open and distance education needs to be a mandatory part of program development and revision. Such tasks are not much carried out, though some prominent research work has come up in this area of program evaluation and its role in quality assurance. Vaidehi, 1984, evaluated the presentation of first-year degree General English course of SOE University, Tirupati with regard to satisfaction of students' needs, attainment of the objectives of courses and the instructional process and evaluation procedures adopted. Analysis of the different objectives for teaching English, methods of instruction, reactions of students and teachers and observation of PCPs were the means used to identify weaknesses of the present structure of curriculum. An alternative student active instructional format and a new type of distance teaching materials were prepared and used in an experimental situation. A comparison of the achievement of students following conventional and the modified materials revealed results in favor of the modified approach. A similar kind of study was undertaken by Sehwal, 1984, at the Central Institute of English and Foreign Languages, Hyderabad for preparation of teacher training. Correspondence course units for English language teaching. It was found that 15-week programs were more effective than the 4-week programs with regard to the degree of comprehension, degree of interest and degree of understanding achieved by students. Mishra, Vijayashree and Garg, 2009, did program evaluation study of the undergraduate physics program at IGNOU. They adapted the major tenets of the SIP model. The results of this study showed that there was a need to make student support system as effective for learners, study material to be learner-friendly by simplifying the mathematical details and improving the presentation of the course material. Gaba and Dash, 2004, did a course evaluation PGDHE program of IGNOU. The results portrayed in the study showed that majority of students were satisfied with self-instructional materials, assignments, the extended contact program, and delivery mechanisms, but some of the respondents were dissatisfied with academic counseling and use of audio-video programs. Woodley, 1995, suggested that the course writers of a program should work towards perfection and make efficient material for the learners. This would have implications to course design of the program. Klinoski, 2010, explained that the concept of curriculum evaluation is integral to curriculum and may be defined as what to taught to whom, when, where, how and why. Evaluation of curriculum involves determining the value or worth of particular products or processes that includes learning objectives, documents or experiences for the purposes of informing decision-making about the curriculum. Need for program evaluation is to maintain, develop or modify a particular curriculum program. Herein, summative evaluation is done so as to assess the outcome, merit and worth of a particular curriculum. Neal and Bell, 2008, said that the role of external or internal evaluator and its impact on the stakeholders' interest needs to be ascertained. They added that universities have adopted different approaches to meet their equity objectives and there is no consistency. across the system in terms of policy, structures and personnel. The reporting style has led to some consistency in some areas among various universities. 3.3.6 Output and impact of distance education. Comparative studies on the achievement of D learners have revealed mixed findings. First, no significant differences have been found between the achievements of D learners and regular course learners in the case of UG courses of Delhi University, Sashi, 1972, and M.A. English, and UG courses of Punjabi University, Biswal, 1979. The UGC, 1986, study reported about comparable pass percentages of both the streams into Indian universities. Second, the pass percentages of undergraduate D students of Meerut, Delhi, Punjab, Bombay, SV, and Madurai Kamraj University were higher than those of regular UG students of the respective universities, Pandey, 1980 and Anand, 1979, and in the case of B.Ed courses, the correspondence students of SV University showed better results than the regular students, Reddy, 1986. It was also found that the proportion of students who obtained third division was more in D than in regular courses. Third, generally the results of distance students were poorer than those of regular students. In the case of Punjab University, the pass percentage of pre-university distance students was found to be lower than that of regular students, Anand, 1979. The mean achievement comparison of the result of M.A. programs of Punjabi University and B.A. of Madurai Kamraj University reflected poorer performance of D students. Biswal, 1979. In the cases of UG and PG courses of Himachal Pradesh University and Rajasthan University respectively, the pass percentages of correspondence students were lower than those of regular students, Sahu, 1985, and Gupta, 1985. As far as the higher grades divisions in UG and PG results are concerned, the D stream performed worse than the regular stream, Sahu, 1985 and UGC, 1986. Similar findings are witnessed in the case of the UG level results of Utkal University, Panda, 1980, and Panda and Panda, 1986. However, in general, the top-level students of both the streams achieved almost similar positions, Sahu, 1989. In several other studies, attempts have been made to compare the achievements of correspondence students and regular students taking similar courses. The results of such studies are generally encouraging for correspondence education. Of course, in some cases they were at par with the results of regular course students. Notable studies with the former conclusions are those of Zagel, 1924, Childs, 1949, Parsons, 1957, Spencer, 1964, and Central African College, 1965, as they showed statistically significant differences between the mean average scores of students undergoing correspondence courses and regular courses respectively. The latter type of results emerge from the studies of Robert, 1928, Dissinger and Bridgman, 1957, and Sheath, 1965, as no significant differences were marked between the achievement scores of the students of the two streams. There are hardly any studies which show correspondence distance students' achievements as worse than those of conventional students. 3.3.7 Economics of distance education. Whatever the advantages of distance education, its promotion depends, ultimately, on its economic viability. The common notion is that distance education is less expensive. This may be generally true, but this idea cannot be stretched too far to say that every distance education program is or must be less expensive than conventional educational programs. Cost effectiveness, cost benefit, and cost analysis are terms which need to be understood correctly in the professional context.
Literature review reveals that, in programs offered through distance learning, costing depends on the funding policy, Smith and Bramble, 2008, Pander and Garber, 2008, the delivery method of distance learning, and the economic model the institution adopt for offering their respective programs. Rumble, 1997, has extensively discussed cost analysis issues in the design of courses, cost of media and materials, student support services, comparison of costs of distance and traditional, conventional education system, and financing of distance education. The research studies conducted both in India and abroad mentioned in this section would give you an idea of costing in distance education. Sources of income in the system. It has been found that in the case of almost all the institutions, one of the major sources of income is students' fees. Dutt, 1986, Biswal, 1979, Pandey, 1980, Khan, 1982. Sahu, 1985, UGC, 1986, Gupta, 1987 and Garber, 1997. The fee structure of the in Rajasthan University analyzed by Gupta, 1987, revealed that the major share of tuition fee to total fees charged from learners varied from 91.70% to 97.32% during 1972 to 1985. In the case of Himachal Pradesh University, the income raised through learners' tuition fees to total income varied from 98.3% to 96.05% during 1975 to 1987, Sahu, 1989. Dutt, 1988, identified learners' contribution as 28 to 50% of the total income of Delhi University during 1980 to 86. The rest of the income came in through subsidies provided mainly by the governments. Srinivasacharyulu and Ramaya, 1994, urged the state governments and other financing agencies to pay more attention to the funding of distance education institutes. Unit cost analysis. In the unit cost analysis has been a common feature of all the studies conducted in the area of economics of the taking into consideration the data from 1973 to 1976 of BA courses of 7 universities. Yadav and Sharma, 1988, found that the total unit costs varied from 269 rupees and 71 paise to 451 rupees and 82 paise. In the case of UG and PG courses of the Himachal Pradesh University, the total cost per student was calculated as 391 rupees and 60 paise and 360 rupees and 22 paise for the years of 1978-79 and 1979-80 respectively. Sahu, 1985. Gupta, 1987, found that the per capita expenditure at Rajasthan University ranged between 133 rupees and 77 paise and 695 rupees and 29 paise during 1972-73 to 1979-80. The UGC, 1986, revealed that the average expenditure of 23 other institutions was 469 rupees and 77 paise per student during 1980-81. Highest per capita expenditure was observed at Utkal University, 1 rupee, 268.72, and lowest was the Kurukshetra, 63 rupees and 94 paise. In the case of APOU, presently named as B.R. Ambedkar Open University, this was around 1,200 rupees. Dutt, 1986. The cost per student of Delhi University came down from 801 rupees in 1980-81 to 563 rupees in 1985-86. Dutt, 1988. A study at IGNOU on cost analysis, including private cost of different programs, Naidu, 2001, found that, on average, the MCA students spent the maximum, followed by BSc, BA and PG diploma in higher education students. Kulindiaswamy, 2002, analyzed the capital and operating costs of IGNOU and found that capital expenditure on buildings and campus development had been reduced over the years. On the other hand, expenditure on equipment, furniture and library had increased. Garber et al., 2011, analyzed the cost of selected professional programs offered through distance learning by the Indira Gandhi National Open University, IGNOU. Study found that the per student total cost, institutional and private, of the MCA program was higher than that of the MBA and BCA programs. Most of the studies conducted on comparison of unit costs of correspondence courses and face-to-face courses revealed that the unit costs of correspondence courses were lower than those of face-to-face courses, in some cases as low as 10% of face-to-face course unit costs. Biswal, 1979, Pandey, 1980, and Gupta, 1985. However, Agarwal, 1986, revealed that in the case of professional training courses, the unit cost of correspondence course was higher by 39% than that of face-to-face courses. Of course, the nature of the institution was not considered for comparison of costs in this case. Dutt and Garber, 2006, found that the per-student cost of dual-mode distance teaching institutions was less than the single-mode distance teaching institutions in India, because the former did not adopt proper pedagogy for the distance education system. Some of the selected international case studies on cost of distance education have already been presented in blocks 4 and 5 of the course MDE 417, Distance Education, Economic Perspective. While going through the cases, you will notice limitations in the nature of data as well as in the conceptualization of cost in distance education and its calculation and the techniques employed across institutions. The findings of the various cost studies suggest that while unit cost for distance education in institutions having large numbers of students is lower than that for conventional education, it may not be the case where the intake is very low. Economy of scale and low unit cost has been possible for larger institutions like Indira Gandhi National Open University and the Open University of United Kingdom, and this has been difficult in institutions operating at a level of low intake like South West London College, UK, University of Lagos, and University of Nairobi. On the other hand, in Australia, since both on-campus and off-campus students receive similar resource inputs, unit costs for both the modes seem to be comparable and same. But as the graduation rates are different, higher for on-campus mode, unit cost of graduation is expected to be higher in off-campus education. There are studies reported under this theme which are of different nature than the earlier researchers. Studies conducted on various aspects of costing of various media in education, Jameson et al., 1978, Eicher, 1980, Perto, 1982, FWU et al., 1992, Chambers, 1994, Bates, 1994, found that the production costs were higher for film and lower for radio. Fixed costs for transmission were much higher for television than for radio, audio. Cassettes were likely to be cheaper than radio where the viewership was restricted. And that the cost structure of open and distance learning differs from traditional classroom teaching. Wisher and Priest 1998, Whalen and Wright 1999 studied the cost effectiveness of audio tele-training and online training. It was found that the use of audio tele-training lowered the cost of training the Army National Guard, and web-based training has higher fixed cost than the classroom training. Ng Kwok Chi, 2000, conducted a study to see the cost effectiveness of delivering online courses in open and distance learning. The study illustrates the complex nature of applying the concepts of costs and effectiveness in practice. Osiakswan and Wright, 2001, did a cost-benefit and return on investment analysis and found that the total cost of remote access distance learning training provided over a voice and data network is higher than the total cost of classroom-based training. Jung, 2005, found that online teacher training was more cost-effective than teacher training in a classroom, mainly due to the lower opportunity cost of the participants. She concluded that the total cost of online training was approximately 59% that of face-to-face training when learners' opportunity costs were included. The cost per enrolled student for online training was approximately 43% that of classroom training. In another study, Belavati, 2006, estimated costs for academic activities as learner support, 44%, course development, 36%, student assessment and evaluation, 13%, and research, 7%. If an institution is planning to shift to online learning, it does not assure a reduction in costs, especially where there is a high delivery cost. English, 2008. On the other hand, virtual universities need to find ways to reduce cost per graduate by improving the graduate course completion rate. Young, 2008. It is interesting to note the shift in the nature of studies on economics of distance education. Earlier studies addressed macro issues of the system, latest focus is on micro issues like cost or cost effectiveness of one media over other. This is reasonable since much of the basics of economics like comparative cost of distance education versus conventional education, comparative costs of different components of distance education, etc., has been settled. Despite the shift in the nature of studies focusing on media-specific costs, the glaring gaps are differential cost effectiveness of different media on learning, cost effectiveness of combination of media on a regression model, and inter-country variation in costs and effectiveness of ICT media for delivery of distance education. 3.4 Research Ethics. Ethics of research and ethics in research is described in social and medical research. William, 2006, listed ethical issues like voluntary participation, informed consent, risk of harm, confidentiality, anonymity, and right to service in his book. It is rather unusual to talk about ethical issues while reviewing research in distance education. However, this has assumed considerable significance, especially when distance education has, usually, transgressed national boundaries and while information needs to be distributed accurately and with equity. The design of questionnaires, tests, and experimental procedures has to be done in a manner that take into account the diversity in the circumstances of students, and in relation to the effective data collection procedures and ethical requirements. Writings on such issues in distance education are very rare, and therefore this section is based mainly on the critical work of Evans and Jakubek, 1996. Sample participants in the research project need to be informed very clearly about the objectives of the research, the procedures and the implications of the research findings, and their utilization. The distance participants in postal or telephonic interviews must be empowered so as to be able to respond to the research questions. Further, prior written consents from them ensures their freedom and reduces uncertain or unpredictable travel time and cost. Strong ethical considerations are required for the conduct and utilization of institutional research. A fine distinction has to be made between student research and evaluation for improving courses and student services. Special care needs to be taken so that research results are being utilized for institutional improvement. Further, researchers need to exercise caution and restraint in their temptation to publish the results or present them in a conference, when the findings are essentially meant for institutional monitoring and quality assurance. This is more so in a situation where data are stored electronically, especially in computer, and are strictly confidential, only to be utilized for institutional monitoring and developmental purposes. However, sometimes open and distance education researchers shift from their professional role to a research role and utilize such data for their own publication. Professional ethics suggests that prior consent be obtained for utilizing such data for purposes of research and publication of findings. Evans and Jakubek, 1996, have concluded that open and distance education researchers have to keep in mind two basic principles. Research in open and distance education should not expose individuals to risks of or cause unjustified political, personal, economics, physical, emotional, moral and psychological harm. Researchers in open and distance education ought not to undertake research which violates principles of free informed consent, page 91. 3.5 Futures of research. During the next few years, there will be significant increase in the demand for places in higher education. This will be a worldwide phenomenon. The developed countries have already projected their vision. The expert report, Higher Education in Developing Countries, Peril and Promise, published by the World Bank in 2000, warns the developing countries of their limited choice but to expand higher education to survive the international competitiveness in the globalized world, and arrest the growing digital divide. Distance education offers a significant promise to support such expansion. Distance education needs to be retuned to service the changing needs of its learners. Studies are needed on assessment of learners' needs both within the country as well as comparative studies of needs of learners from various countries. On the basis of the analysis of the studies in the various areas as evident from the review earlier, there are concentrations in certain areas like characteristics of distance learners and economics of distance education. In fact, both these areas have been extensively studied, hence, there are obvious overlaps. There are certain areas where the status of research is still in the form of touch and go. This is particularly true in the crucial area of andragogy and pedagogy of distance education. You would probably appreciate that distance education has, all over the world, adopted a multi-channel learning format involving print material, PCP, audio, radio, television, interactive television, and internet. There is no study on the effect of multi-channel learning on distance education. There are separate studies on various components of the instructional process. Within the instructional process, there have been very few studies on electronic media, TV and radio, as media of distance education have remained almost unexplored. Similarly, research in other components of instructional processes are few and scanty to derive any significant conclusions about the pedagogy and andragogy in distance education. The studies on learning outcome through distance education and its comparability to the learning outcome in the conventional system are just one or two. Studies are totally missing on excellence and quality of distance education. What constitute quality and what determines quality in distance education? The number of studies on organization and management of distance education is small. Indian distance education offers plenty of opportunities for research in this area. Besides, there are open universities and dual-mode universities. Distance education outfits in the conventional universities vary widely in their organizational structure. Some of them enjoy the status of a faculty, autonomous. Some are in the departmental status under a faculty, and yet some others operate as constituent colleges. They vary widely in their academic and financial autonomy. Similarly, these institutions vary very widely in their staff structure, while a few of the departments have a large number of staff within the distance education institution, e.g. about 100 in the Directorate of Distance Education of Delhi University. Some others maintain a skeleton staff. Another related area, relatively unexplored, is the staff development in distance education. The nature of jobs are changing rapidly. The need for on-the-job training in industries, business organizations as well as in service sectors is much more important now than ever before. Formal education can barely serve the needs of worker re-education. Distance education has been deployed for capacity building. There are, however, very few researches to draw lessons for retuning the program design and delivery for greater effectiveness. Research is needed on worker re-education, program and course design, instructional design and delivery, costing and cost effectiveness and impact on productivity. Although large number of universities, both open and dual-mode universities in various parts of the developed and developing world, offer online education, research is still too scanty in this area. More and more agencies at all levels will resort to use internet for educational program delivery. There is, however, little evidence of research based on the basics of pedagogy of online education. Future research will have to address the nitty-gritty of web-based instruction as a mode of distance education. 3.6 Summary. Distance education has come a long way, and it is here to stay and grow significantly. In the foreseeable future, research is an important mechanism for growth and development of distance education. Research has produced conclusive evidences in certain areas and issues. It has also produced contra-evidences in certain other areas. Similarly, there are overlapping researches in certain areas and there are yawning gaps in certain others. Reviewers have made meaningful contributions in identifying conclusive and contra-evidences, gaps and overlaps. Yet, they carry individual opinions and perceptions of the reviewers. Using ICT, a dialogue can should begin on research needs in open and distance education that can generate a collective view and on a continuing basis. See you.